What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel, a place where we play and run a lot of Blood on the Clocktower and make a lot of homebrew content. Now, it's time for possibly my most scalding hot take of all time. I believe that Trouble Brewing and Sex and Violence have had some of their characters put in the wrong places. Now, before you kill this man, let me defend myself. Let me explain why I think that some of the outsiders and minions on Trouble Brewing and Sex and Violence should be changed. We're going to run through the whole 3 different base 3 scripts, and I'm going to propose some minor changes to them. Starting with Trouble Brewing, you will notice all of the townsfolk are identical. I forgot to click the sort button when I was playing with the script tool, so they're in the wrong order, but they're all there. None of the townsfolk have changed. I'm happy with how the townsfolk are. They don't really need much changing. We've seen a lot of cast-off scripts like Strings Pulling, where it's just plus the Marionette, and Pies Baking, which is minus Investigator, minus Undertaker, and then plus Noble, plus Cannibal. I think they're good changes. It's a good way to go, here's Trouble Brewing plus 10% or whatever for the person that has played it and wants to do a little more. And I very often publicly say, I think Trouble Brewing is the best script because it's the most balanced one, and I stand by that. However, I do want to make some minor changes. Now, without scrolling down too far and giving away some spoilers, let's start with the outsiders. You can see that I have stolen the Sweetheart and the Klutz from Sex and Violence. So we have the Drunk, we have the Recluse. These both fulfill a really important and specific role on this script. However, instead of the Butler and the Saint, we have the Sweetheart and the Klutz. The Sweetheart is a really good bluff for the evil team on Trouble Brewing, and it's kind of a mid bluff in Sex and Violence. In Sex and Violence, you're like, look, if you execute me, one player's going to be drunk and their info is going to suck. And everyone's like, bro, my info always sucks. It's a fucking Vortox game. Nothing has changed for me. We would just kill you. It means nothing. In Trouble Brewing, they're like, well, when you have like 3 info characters, everyone else is dead. This is actually really important that the fortune teller finally finds the demon or whatever. I think the stakes sit in a different place where it is actually much more important to not execute the Sweetheart, especially early on, right? And then the Klutz is just like a slightly more interactive Saint, and I'll explain why I specifically think it is a better choice here. But the Klutz, in a vacuum, is an interesting, different design space from the Saint. The Saint is a character, if you execute me, we lose the game, and so I'm stuck here forced trying to convince you that I have to be good, but I have no way of doing that with just my character ability, which can be really rough for some introductory players. I have seen some players really struggle with that in particular, especially when something like they've been by a red herring or misinformation from a poisoner has set them up to look evil, and they don't quite understand that that is the thing that's happening. They're like, I'm good, I'm doing my best, why do you all still think I'm evil? Or they have evil players that are trying to frame them, that kind of thing, and it can be really stressful for that player in their first game. With the Klutz, they go, oh, I've died. You all executed me, or I died tonight. And then they go, well, hang on, I have to use my Klutz ability. I need to know a good person. Did the Virgin activate? Did they pick the Virgin? Or did they pick the person that selected the Virgin? And then, oh no, that was the spy. Or, trying to find that one person that they trust. I think it is really interesting in that way, and it's a little bit more dynamic. And you can set it up to be like a really hype moment. Like, okay, this is it. If you pick an evil player, your team loses, and then you have a potential chance to publicly confirm good another player. A thing that Trouble Brewing really needs for people that aren't familiar with the game to help move things along. Like, I see a lot of introductory games where the Virgin activates. Some people are like, oh my god, what happened? The day just ended. Everyone's going to sleep. I thought we were nominating and stuff. And they go, no, the Virgin activated. There's an execution. But what that means is that this person can only be the Virgin or townsfolk. They have to be good. You should go and work with them. Like, you should go and help them, which is a good thing. And I like how that works. Now, let's talk about minions. I think the Spy doesn't have a place on Trouble Brewing. The Spy is a way too advanced character for somebody to play on the introductory script. Now, me and Michael Solomon and a couple other people basically ran the Sydney group for about 1.5 years when it was at the Horse Hotel before they kicked us out. And in that time, I played maybe 1,000 games of Trouble Brewing. In that time, you would almost never ever see the spy put in the bag, and you would almost never ever see the butler be put in the bag. Because people have inherent problems with the butler and kind of how it functions, and we'll get to a fix for that in a second. But the spy, if you're showing a player who's never played the game before, the Grimoire, they're like, the fuck am I looking at? What does this mean? What is any of these things? This doesn't help me. And so I think that actually Evil Twin is slightly better here. Now, again, hear me out. We've taken the Saint off the script. The Evil Twin creates a good twin, which is ostensibly still the Saint. Now, the good twin cannot nominate the Virgin to prove themselves good, because they would be executed, and evil will win. Now, the good can't win if you both live still applies. The demon could potentially star pass into the evil twin, replacing it. All things I think is fine. The only maybe awkward scenario is if the demon is executed, there's no Scarlet Woman, there's no death at night, and then they're like, well, it's just the twins. And that happens really early on. But because Trouble Brewing has both the soldier and the monk, you could potentially argue that there's been 2 nights of no deaths, and that doesn't mean that the demon is dead. A problem that Sex and Violence does have, because it doesn't have protectors in the same way that Trouble Brewing does. So the mechanical problems of Sex and Violence that the Evil Twin doesn't synergy really well with, because let's talk about the Vigor Mortis for a second. That's shit for the Evil Twin. That just shuts it down. It just removes part of its ability if it's selected. It's not a good synergy there at all. So I actually think the Evil Twin works really well on Trouble Brewing, because the way that it's going to play, right, is basically the good player wakes up and goes, oh, what's happening? And then the storyteller goes, this guy, this guy is a minion. And this is already a thing that Trouble Brewing does with the Investigator. But he goes, this guy is a minion. He's going to pretend to be your character. And then they're evil, and then they have seen your character. So we have an evil player who has a bluff immediately off the bat, which is really good for Trouble Brewing. If the minions don't have an opportunity to talk to the demon, they can be like, oh, what am I doing? But if you talk to the Evil Twin, as a storyteller, you talk to the Evil Twin who's a first-time player, and you go, cool. All you have to do is convince everyone that you are the thing that you saw the other person is, more so than they can. That's your job. That's all you have to do. Whereas the Good Twin has the same thing. They know that guy is evil, and they have to try and convince everyone that they are the same thing. And then you can scale how difficult you want things to be, right? With what character you're showing. You could do an info one, and then you go, cool, hey, Evil Twin, this is how the librarian works. You would see 2 people of this character, or whatever. And then there's just so much better options, I think, in the way that fits. So that's my Trouble Brewing. We still have the Imp. He's still chilling. And I personally think that this would be a better fit. I think it mechanically works better with the goals. First of all, the goals of the script. The goal of Trouble Brewing is to be a script that a person who has never played the game before, potentially never played a social deduction game before, to come and play the script. And I think that this suite of characters works a bit better, instead of just having some that are not used and people are like, don't worry about that, it will never come up. It's bad. The thing that we lose is the spy nominating the Virgin and activating. I think I'm okay with that. I think I am okay with losing that. It does unfortunately mean that the Virgin and the person that nominated the Virgin is going to be much more likely to be both good players. And so it would mean that you might have a drunk Virgin much more often. You might need to have just lucky poisoner. Things like that. Or just put the Virgin into the bag a bit less often, or something like that. I have done setups of Trouble Brewing where I've replaced the Virgin for a different character. I don't know. I think it's probably still fine. It just might be very powerful, and you would only do it if you knew that there wasn't a lot of info characters, maybe, and then you're relying on building trust amongst the players or something like that. But I still think this is fine. I think removing the spy is a great choice. And if the goal was to have a minion that registered as good, then it should have had a different ability than look at the Grimoire, the most complex of all possible abilities. I don't think that's a hot take, honestly. We could have had something else cool that filled in that slot. So that's Trouble Brewing. Now we get to look at Sex and Violence, and you might be able to guess what characters are going to show up on there. We're keeping the same 4 demons, but we're changing the outsiders and minions. I genuinely think the outsiders and the minions are the only thing that needs to change. For the outsiders, you have the Butler. Now, on Trouble Brewing, the Butler is a shit character. On Sex and Violets, the Butler is a fucking fantastic character because we have this little character called the Flower Girl. Now, the Butler is a fantastic bluff for a demon who is scared of the Flower Girl. People go, why aren't you voting? Are you the demon? Are you worried the Flower Girl is going to read you? And the demon goes, no, I'm the Butler. That guy who I picked as my master last night didn't vote, so I didn't vote, or whatever. It gives you a genuine reason to be not voting on a Flower Girl script. And I think that adds a little bit more to the negotiation space. I think that is worthwhile. And then the Saint is here because it is a replacement of the Evil Twin setup where you have a lose condition that the evil team can play on. But because the Pit Hag can put it into play and then they can frame them, right? It gives them a lot more options. And also the Saint being selected by the Cerenovus is really stressful and interesting and is a bit more at the complexity level that Sex and Violence is trying to be. So I think that is cool. I think that works nicely. Now the Spy. I think the Spy fits really well on Sex and Violence. I think the Spy fits really well on Sex and Violence for a couple of reasons. The first one, the Snake Charmer. Probably the weirdest, most cursed character on this script. The Snake Charmer, which possibly should have been given an asterisk, if hits the demon, the minions are left up a creek. They don't know what the fuck's happened. They don't know who their new demon is. And they're going to get publicly outed immediately by the now poisoned Snake Charmer. And so what happens in pretty much every game that I've played in where a Snake Charmer has come out as, formally being the demon and outing all of their minions, those minions are removed from the game because even if it was a Snake Charmer bluff, the players sitting there around these confirmed minions, have no reason to talk to them anymore. They go, what can you contribute to me? I know that you're an evil minion. You are not going to do anything that is going to convince me about how the game state is different. And it kind of pseudo removes them from the game. Except the Spy gives the minions the ability to know who the new demon is. And so even if everyone's like, I don't want to know, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to know about you, they are still able to operate in a way where they can interact with the demon, they can protect the new demon. The Snake Charmer just doesn't have no team. They don't just create an island of a single demon. The minions are able to come with them and know what's going on. Because when you Snake Charmer demon, you don't learn who your demons are either. Your minions are either. You just have nothing. You're just like, great, you're the Vortex now. Good luck, kid. You're like, what the fuck? Which is kind of goofy as hell. And I think that it's like solves a minor problem, but adds an extra interesting dimension. Also, the Spy registering good for the seamstress is really cool misinformation. The Spy can misregister for a whole bunch of things, like the Oracle, also super relevant and interesting. Like the Juggler, also super relevant and interesting. For the Dreamer, I guess doesn't matter. You could probably still just show them Spy anyway. I don't know, it's probably not a problem. Clockmaker, again, super interesting and relevant when it comes to information. So a Spy in a Fangoo game, again, a problem where there's a Fangoo jump. If the original Fangoo doesn't communicate this to the minions who the new demon is, they will not know, especially on like a final day scenario where you don't really have private chats. The Spy, if they're still alive on the final day, is going to know. Also, the Spy can register as an outsider for the Fangoo to jump to, by the way. Can we fucking talk about that for a second? That's sick. The Spy that knows the whole Grimoire can pick up the demon if needed. The Spy that knows the whole Grimoire has created misinformation in the town. In a Fangoo game, a thing that normally doesn't happen, can pick up the demon who. Or, if a different outsider has picked up the Fangoo, the Spy knows who it is. I think it just has so much better synergy and so many better interactions for the script than the Evil Twin. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think this is just a better choice. And I think it's strange things ended up the way that they did. And now, are you ready for the greatest cook of all? Whoops, I just highlighted everything. The greatest cook of all, let me show you my insane Bad Moon Rising take. My insane Bad Moon Rising take is, it's perfect, I love it. No changes, no notes, this is great, actually. Every single one of these characters was designed to belong on exactly this script. And you can tell because they all function like it. And it's really interesting to me that the butler and the spy are such an obvious and public grinding point, because the purpose of the script misaligns with the balance of the script, right? Trouble Brewing is very interesting because Trouble Brewing as it stands, and like I said, I think is the greatest script, as it stands, is very good and is balanced. That's my hot take. Ready? It is balanced because if you played Blood on the Clocktower and you played only one script and you became very good at it and you became an advanced player, Trouble Brewing still has things for you to explore and enjoy and play through and, you know, muck around with for a long time, forever. And a storyteller that recognizes that they're running Trouble Brewing for all advanced players can start doing stuff like the spy, can start doing some more complicated things. So it has upwards mobility. My perspective is that, and this is how we kind of ran things for a long time when we're running in-person events. If you had played less than 10 games, I think it was kind of the benchmark we picked. We go, you should play a Trouble Brewing. And then Trouble Brewing games would be run specifically for introductory people. Once you have played 10 games, here's Sex and Violets. This is the next step up. This is going to be a little bit more exciting and crazy for you. And then usually after that, we would say Badman Rising. Because everything that you've learned so far about how to play the game is about information, and Badman Rising is not about information. Badman Rising is what happened. Why did this happen? Which is a bit different, and why it sets apart from the other base 3, and why it's a very good script. But in that, if you think of, and what I think is how it has been perceived, how Stephen Medway's vision has come together to create Trouble Brewing as the be-all and catch-all script that anyone could play forever, and it has the greatest mechanical depth and all those kind of things. It's really, really balanced. I think it's perfect. If you wanted to have just an introductory script, which is, it plays like a tutorial, I think my rebalanced version is better. The goal is, here is all the things that you're going to need to kind of understand how the game's going. Here's a lot more public confirmation about things, and there's a lot more things that interact differently. The class having a public confirmation, the evil twin creating noise immediately, there's the constant, like, creating people the ability to get up and talk about, oh, I know that guy's evil immediately. It's not a 1 in 2, not like the investigator. No. I know that guy is evil. Which I think is interesting. And I think is a more encouraging for players to you know, start engaging and stuff with the game. And then for Sex and Violence to have that slightly more complicated angle, I don't think it's too crazy. I personally would change the demons a little bit. I'm a little bit of a Vigor Mortis hater. Just a pinch. But I still think they're fine in the way that they are. I would like a Madness Demon on that script, personally. There is an unreleased one that I do specifically like, and I'm not allowed to talk about. They get really mad at me when I mention unreleased characters. And I think that is being reserved for the new set of Base 3 that is supposed to be coming soon. And so I understand, that's why it's not been used. But I think because that is the Madness script, the script that introduces that mechanic, having a Madness Demon would have made sense. And so the Vigor Mortis, a thing that didn't function with the Evil Twin, and kind of doesn't, should have been a Madness Demon instead. That's probably my hottest take, maybe, I don't know. But having the spy there, it just has so many amazing synergies. It works so well with so many different things. It solves weird little problems about alignment changing and character swapping and stuff like that. Which I think is really helpful and relevant. Like if there's a barber swap, the spy gets to see and learn, oh, that's interesting. That's what the demon chose. I don't need to talk to them about that. Or a barber swap and the demon swap with the other minion. Or the demon swap with the spy, so that the spy is now the demon, and the old demon gets to look at the grimoire. Like, stuff like that. Like, it's really interesting and different mechanical options for play, which I think suits the script, where you go, okay, I think I've mastered Trouble Brewing. I kind of understand what's going on. I figure out how all the information works. Let me try the next big thing. And then you're like, okay, I've seen a grimoire before. I know what character tokens look like. I maybe have an idea of what a setup kind of is. Looking at a Sex and Violence grimoire, you go, okay, well, I know what all these people are. I have a bit more experience with the game. I kind of know what's going on. And I think it fits there a bit better. So, look, crucify me in the comments if you disagree. But that's kind of my hot take. And I have actually been sitting on this for a long time. A very, very long time ago, created a Google Doc where I was like, you know what? I think the butler actually works really well on Sex and Violence. So that was kind of my hot take. And then I kind of tinkered with it a little bit. And I was like, what really would I change if I was just going to move things around? And I realized I didn't want to change anything from Badman Rising, which is kind of funny. Having a no notes script is kind of based, I guess. It means it like has to be just really good, right? Whereas Sex and Violence is so much more involved and has lots of different pieces to it. And the outsiders don't really feel like they fit there, whereas they do feel a lot better on Trouble Brewing. I don't know. That's my hot take. If you have any suggestions on what you think a rearranging of the base 3 would be, I would be interested to hear it. Stand out there and defend yourself. Tell me why. Tell me why I'm wrong, and tell me why you think it's different and better. Or if you should just be moving out of the base 3 and playing other different custom stuff instead, where you can just build whatever the complexity you wanted. I think that's also fine. Cool, even, right? That's kind of what we do here normally when we're playing games. But that's it. I'm gonna step down from my soapbox. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm curious about it. And then, look, we do a lot of Clocktower content on the channel. If you're curious about some of the other stuff, check that out. I also recently did a video where I had a look at the Atheist. I think the Atheist is an interesting character, but it has a troublesome power dynamic between the storyteller and the players, where the storyteller has promised to run a fun and good and balanced game for them. And then if the storyteller has stakes in that, how are they supposed to create an unbiased game state? It's difficult, and I think that the Atheist maybe should be changed and be a demon instead, as suggested by Patters. Now, if you want to hear a little bit more about this, go and check out that video. I'll have it up on the screen for you. You can check it out. And then, look, I just have a whole bunch of other random Clocktower stuff on the channel, so if you did enjoy this, you can probably enjoy some of that cool stuff. I have some cool homebrews in there, a lot of characters that I've created, a lot of games that I've run and played in. I get really mad sometimes. I say some really funny things sometimes. Go and check them out, and then hopefully I'll see you around here on the Cutlass Board Games channel.